We got breaking news in college football. Steve Sarkisian has to be a happy man. He has landed a big fish on a Friday. Fourth-ranked wideout Jaime Ffrench decided to take his talents to Austin, Texas. The big game talent Ffrench did not, of course, disappoint in his junior season. Put up over 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns for Mandarin in high school, but now taking his talents to Texas to join Shark and also, the Longhorns to play big-time ball. Want to welcome in Cooper Petagna and also Hank South back in here. And moments ago, we talked about the crystal ball. Maybe it would be the Longhorns. And Cooper, I'll start with you. It's now official.
Yeah, it's a big gift for Steve Sarkisian in Texas, and this is just kind of what they do. You know, we talked about Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, what that quarterback room is going to look like there in Austin. How about that receiver room, the talent that they have? You mentioned Khalil Lockett earlier in the show, the number 2 ranked receiver in the country. Now you add in a guy like Jaime Ffrench, and, oh, by the way, 5-star receiver Ryan Wingo last year. So this team is loaded. You talk about it all the time. You have to have the piece at the quarterback position. They have that. And then around him, you have to have protection. You have to have the play caller and Steve Sarkisian, and you have to have the playmakers. So there is no shortage of the 3 Ps there in Austin. If you're a Texas fan, you got to be pretty fired up this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is a recruitment. Texas kind of came from behind in. You know, they didn't even offer him Jaime Ffrench until January, you know, when all these other programs were already heavily involved. And, you know, to make up the ground they did, they got him on campus in April, jumped into his top 3, impressed him there, got him back for an official visit at the end of June. I think that's what really kind of sealed the deal for Jaime Ffrench in Texas. You know, his relationship with Chris Jackson, the wide receivers coach, Steve Sarkisian, you know, their ability to recruit Jaime, not only Jaime, but his family as well. I think that was a big aspect in you know, his liking of Texas. But yeah, you know, to get a receiver of his caliber to kind of keep the cupboard full of elite wide receiver talent, you know, they got some guys that are probably going to get drafted on the team this year at the wide receiver position, and you know, they're keeping it loaded for the future. So massive get in Jaime Ffrench, and you know, to pair up with Khalil Lockett, I think, you know, obviously this is one of the best wide receivers class, if not the best in the country.
I want to piggyback off that, Cooper, because you think about it, this is a kid from Florida, and Miami was in the picture there. How big of a get is this for Sark getting a kid from Florida to commit to Texas?
Well, there's no boundaries anymore. We saw this a couple years ago when they landed the number 1 running back in the country in C.J. Baxter out of the state of Florida. Hank mentioned Jared Gibson as well from IMG Academy, who's going to have to play this year. So in a league of really the new recruiting norm being go to where the players are, I don't think Texas and Steve Sarkisian are going to have any problem. And this is a big development. I know Andrew Ivins wanted to hit on this, but their ability to go into Texas and get guys like Khalil Lockett or C.J. Baxter, I mean, we're talking about the 1%, the best players in the country here. So something definitely to keep an eye on if you're a Texas fan, and big development for Steve Sarkisian.
Hank, I'm curious because now that Texas is in the SEC, could this be a change of the guards where this is a strategy now where you can tell recruits that, look, we're the conference that is the biggest of them all? Your thoughts on that possibly being like maybe that conversation point with these recruits?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, we've talked to Steve Sarkisian about, you know, his approach to recruiting the SEC. And he said when he got to Texas, you know, it was, you know, he has to, you know, make this program resemble the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Clemsons, you know, the programs that have been at the top of the, you know, college football playoff era. So, you know, he hasn't really changed the strategy. He's gone, like Cooper mentioned, to the players. And, you know, that's evident in this 2025 class. The first 3 commitments, or, you know, first couple of commitments, KJ Lacey from the state of Alabama, the quarterback. You have Amari Winston, the tight end from the state of Georgia. Now you have Jaime Ffrench. You know, they went out to California to get a 4-star defensive lineman in Josiah Sharma. So they're certainly, you know, trying to expand their footprint. Texas has always been a brand name. You know, kids know Texas. But I think, you know, Steve Sarkisian and his staff are really trying to, you know, push that message home and, you know, really establish themselves as a national brand and expand their recruiting footprint.
Yeah, to piggyback off of Hank, I don't think the brand's ever been stronger. You look at the 24/7 Sports team talent composite, Texas ranked number 4. That's the highest they have ever been. So they're chasing guys like Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State, but they're 1 to 2 years away from being in that exact conversation. They're coming off a college football playoff appearance. As I mentioned earlier, Steve Sarkisian, Texas, they have it rolling. And I think for any questions out there, for anybody to say, well, how are they going to fare in the SEC? What's that going to look like? They're ready to roll right now. And they're definitely a team that's going to be a national championship contender, not just this year, but for years to come.
Hey, I want to take a look at the top 10 receivers remaining, or the ones that are still there, but there's one name still out there that has not yet committed. When you take a look at this list here, Jerome Miles out of Conner Canyon. Your thoughts on his possible landing spot, number 5 there, right below Jamie?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't followed his recruitment too closely. I believe, Alabama, or I think Georgia and a few others. Cooper might have a better idea on this one of where he's leaning. Texas hasn't really been involved with him. Their focus has been Decorian Moore, Jaime Ffrench, and Khalid Lockett. With Lockett and Ffrench on board now, I think, they might be done at the wide receiver position, maybe go in the portal if they need to. But, Jerome Miles, obviously a superior talent as well. Whoever gets his commitment is going to be very happy.
Yeah, Miles, an elite kid and a guy that's surging coming off an ankle injury as a junior, had 125 yards and 3 touchdowns in his first game against national powerhouse IMG Academy up there in Utah. This is a kid that's going to be in College Station this weekend for a visit with Texas A&M and the Aggies as they take on Notre Dame. You got a lot of teams swinging: Utah, In-State, Ohio State in here as well, Texas A&M. I think those are the 3 programs to probably keep an eye on right now. This is a dude, he's ranked the number 5 receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if he works his way up into that top 15 conversation, becomes one of the top ranked 1 or 2 right up there with Decorian Moore at the end of the cycle.
It's interesting to see nobody from wide receiver U there. Ohio State, usually that's where all the guys go, but nobody in that top 10. That's something we'll have to address for another time. But Cooper and Hank, appreciate your time on that breaking news. Jaime Ffrench heading to Texas, just like the crystal ball had it. If you're Chris Jackson, the receivers coach, you're happy. You got 2 5-stars. But winning per usual, wall-to-wall team coverage, recruiting ranks, and transfer portal updates. But Steve Sarkisian, a happy man, 2 5-stars heading to Austin.